Welcome to our latest edition of 12 Town Hall. I'm Mike Montecalvo along with Shannon Hegy. The topic today, tourism. And one word that can define what has happened to the tourism and restaurant industry is catastrophic, but there are plans to get us back on the right path. And we have four guests that will tackle that topic today. Dale Venturini is the president and CEO of the Rhode Island Hospitality Association. Kristen Adamo is the president and CEO of the Providence and Warwick Convention and Visitors Bureau. Evan Smith is the president and CEO of Discover Newport, and from Westerly is Caswell Cooke Jr., who's not only a town councilor and a business owner, he's also president of the MISQUAMICUT Beach Association. Thank you all very much for participating in our town hall today. Shannon?
And Dale, we want to start with you. You know, when it comes to this pandemic, there are so many challenges for business, but especially in the tourism industry, and especially in a state like Rhode Island, where we rely so heavily on tourism with summer coming up. How are local hotels, inns, restaurants, all of these tourism-related businesses, how are they weathering this storm?
It's a downpour. It is an absolute downpour. Every day is a new challenge, and I think the biggest issue we have right now is the unknown. It's the unknown. Here it is in the middle of May, and we still don't know what's going to happen for the biggest weekend, one of the biggest weekends of the year, that being Memorial Day. I know my two counterparts, Evan and Kristen, know more about the tourism side of the visitor coming in and the meetings and the planning of that, but it is an absolute, maybe it's better, it's worse than a downpour, it's a tsunami. And I think that all of us are working so hard together to figure out ways to help people along the way. Every step, every day, every hour is different, and it's ever moving, ever changing.
And you know, Kristen, there's a way of booking conventions, and not just in the city of Providence, but in Warwick too. You look at the convention center, Kristen, and we have hospital beds in there right now. The lease is for 6 months. How are you able to, look down the road and say, hey, we can book something in November or December, or do you still have to wait?
So it's a very complicated issue, but the convention center right now, we have moved all the business that we have booked in there from March 11th when this happened through November 1st. And that's a $43 million loss in direct spending for the state of Rhode Island. It includes, because what happens is the convention center serves as a hub. So the hotel rooms are not booked. The restaurants have less people. Less people are going down to the beaches. Less people are going to the mansions. So it's really all encompassing when we lose the convention center. The bright spot is, of that 43 million, about 11 is postponed business. So that'll come in later years, 21, 2, and 3, even a little 24. And meetings and conventions tend to book 2 to 4 years out. So we are still booking. The issue is, how do we get there? And we're not looking at any sort of economic lift out of the convention center until really 2021. Yeah.
And that's just not the convention centers where we mentioned. It's just, Warwick, you look at the Crown Plaza and so many other places too that are holding conventions. Mm-hmm. Shannon?
Thanks, Mike. And Caswell, for you, in 2012, we saw Hurricane Sandy ravage Westerly and many businesses starting from scratch. How do you compare that to what you're dealing with now?
Well, there's no comparison, because Superstorm Sandy came in the fall, and we were able to sort of stand there and say, we will be open Memorial Day weekend, and we were. This is different. You can't really say what's going to happen. So what can we say? We know we're going to be open as a beach. We know the governor said the state beaches will open. How, when? We're waiting. We know that businesses can start doing outside seating soon. So will we have people on the patios having their, food? Yes. Will it be weird with masks and 8 feet apart? Sure. So it's just totally something we've never experienced. We've had to cancel many of our events, with the exception of our drive-in movie theater. We're allowed to start that up next week. So it's just a weird season, and people just have so many questions, and it's really hard for us at the local level without more direction from the state as to what can we do this season and how open can we be.
Right, timing here is just horrendous, really, for Rhode Island. Mike?
Evan, I guess you could use this experience of what is happening to the state of Rhode Island and the city of Newport as maybe redefining Newport to Rhode Islanders, because when you really look at it, about 85% of the business that you get through hotels are out-of-towners, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, even international. That's a significant loss, people outside the state of Rhode Island coming into Newport, isn't it?
It is. You know, this is kind of a conversation about day visitation versus overnight visitation. So for Rhode Islanders, they represent over 40% of the people who come in for the day. People who drive in, have a meal, walk the cliff walk, do some shopping, see a mansion, and then leave. So while they're good visitors, and we love those visitors, the economic impact is greater when someone spends the night. And Rhode Islanders actually only attribute about 16% of the overnight hotel stays in Newport. So as you pointed out, we're very reliant on New England state's primary feeder markets. And so we're waiting to see what's going to happen with the 14-day quarantine, because that's really, I think, a key pivot point for our hoteliers as to whether they're going to be able to, even some of them, reopen this year based on that decision.
And that's still into effect as we're taping this show today on May 11th. Shannon?
Thanks, Mike. Dale, you know, you talked before we got this whole thing started about how you get on your computer in the morning and sometimes you're not done till 11 at night. And I'm curious to give our viewers kind of an inside look at what are you discussing every day? What are some of the things you're going through? Is there a lot of creativity going on behind the scenes to just come up with ways, as you're waiting to hear from the governor what happens next, ways for businesses to survive and to get through this?
Well, every day, first of all, fielding calls because of confusion and not having answers. You know, all of us in this business, we have the answers. We encourage people to call us no matter what it's for, and we're going to respond to whatever their question is. Sometimes not even related to what we do, but we are the source of information. Right now, people call us and they just don't know what to do. And we have to send the word out there that there's a matter of trust right now. And what are we trusting? Because people are right now feeling so angry, they're feeling stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're frustrated, and a lot of my day is spent just listening. But when I listen, we take down all of the things that are necessary for whatever the next step is going to be. For instance, outdoor dining. We sent a letter immediately to the governor after many of our own town halls with our members, listening to my counterparts here, Evan and Kristen and everyone else, and hearing what some of the questions and frustrations are and turning those into solutions. And so we then will send a bullet-pointed list and work with Commerce, and I speak to Commerce pretty much every day, sometimes more than once a day, offering some solutions and being there as a partner, because I think it's really hard for any of us to lean on any organization to go through what we don't know. We don't have the playbook for, as we said earlier. So the biggest part of my day is figuring out what the next steps are going to be and trying to be ahead of them and coming up with the solutions. You know, something as simple as, okay, we're going to have outdoor dining, no indoor dining. However, to get to my outdoor space, you have to come into my restaurant. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, believe it or not, that needed a process to say okay for. It's just so many different subtleties, because the interesting part about our business, and probably what keeps us all in it, is it's not cookie cutter. There is nothing the same. Every day is a challenge. Every day is an adventure. So it's figuring it all out that one size does not fit all. So the answers can't just be that very specific answer. We have to find out how it's going to work for everyone, and it doesn't. So we got to figure out all of those subtleties. That's my day. And then, you know, sometimes at the end of the day, Shannon, thank you for asking, because honestly, my heart is broken. Absolutely. I'm devastated and my heart is broken. And I can't tell you that I don't cry, because I do. I could right now. Because people are they just don't know what to do. It's their livelihoods. It's their dream. It's the American dream. And here's the good news, though. We're working with a bunch of people that are so creative that, you know, in Newport and Providence, getting calls from everyone. We've sent out letters to all the city councils and town councils around the state saying, how can we help to make it easier for the businesses? The governor's office is doing it with us. How can we help so that it can make it easier for people to do outdoor dining if they don't have an outdoor space? Because this is all under regulation. Cities and towns rule our licenses. So that's kind of the fun part of talking to people and being creative and figuring out a way around things.
It'll be interesting to see, I think, through those conversations you have, what one idea from one person can do for so many other businesses. So that's really great to hear. Mike?
Kristen, we'll go to you next. You know, we're finding out today that the AHL is suspending the rest of the regular season and the playoffs. Obviously, this is no surprise with the NBA and NHL also putting a halt to their seasons. You know, you look at Providence, Kristen, the Providence Bruins get anywhere from 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 people a game. Some of them use the hotels. You even look at the New England Patriots, you know, fans of opposing teams come in and they stay in Providence hotels. But could sports be the first industry that bounces back through all of this, even maybe before restaurants?
Yes. So sports is actually 33% or more of the meeting and convention business we book. So it's the Bruins, it is the Bruins and the Patriots and all of that, but it's also hockey tournaments and baseball tournaments, lacrosse. So I think, and a lot of those things are played outdoors. So as we kind of go forward and we have a little more information on how this is all going to work out, I think that sports could be a savior. And you were talking about Warwick earlier, and Warwick is actually a really hot sports destination. The rooms are bigger, so you can have 4 people in them. They're more affordable for families on a budget. So if we get to September, October or so, and we're able to have some of those tournaments that might not be spectators, but people playing in those events, then yes, that will be a big savior. And we do the bulk of our sports business actually in the winter. So that could be the first thing that comes back online for us, absolutely.
So many times when we've had our Christmas parties in downtown in one of the hotels, you see so many kids with their hockey bags in the lobby, and their parents, obviously, they're in town for a tournament. Shannon?
Caswell, we talked about this a little bit. I think Kristen touched on it, but you know, I grew up in Connecticut and we came to MISQUAMICUT. That was our beach. Every weekend we traveled to MISQUAMICUT. And I have to imagine that so much of what you see on the beaches there are out-of-state visitors. And without knowing what's going to happen with that quarantine, how can you possibly plan for that and whether or not you'll be able to have those visitors? Are you already getting calls from people out of state?
Oh yeah, tons. I mean, look, everybody from Connecticut comes to MISQUAMICUT. They don't go to their beaches; they come to ours. The good news is that the rest of the folks in Rhode Island usually feel like they have to pack a suitcase to come to Westerly. So we encourage that for Rhode Islanders this year. But that, in all seriousness, you know, it's a problem. But the other thing is, as far as out-of-state license plates, I mean, so many people that live in the town of Westerly have out-of-state license plates because places like Watch Hill, MISQUAMICUT, Weekapaug in the Westerly area, most of those folks that come here are from out of state. So how that's going to be regulated, I have no idea. I'm just hoping that by the time we get a few weeks down the road, we won't have that order in place anymore because, you know, on the 4th of July when it's 90 degrees, I mean, people are coming. It's just a matter of when they come, how do we deal with it? And so the things we need to know is, can they use 50% of the parking lot, 100% of the park? I mean, those are the kind of things that we're really, really asking for right now is tell us how to do business because we're going to be doing business, but we need a little clearer, you know, regulations as to what's going to happen because someone mentioned before, it's not one size fits all. MISQUAMICUT State Beach is way different from some of the other state beaches. You know, we're the #1 revenue generating state beach in all of Rhode Island because of the out-of-staters. Right. And we just need some more direction. I think that's what I've been asking Director Coit from DEM and been working through the Lieutenant Governor's office on this as well. But direction and how do we accommodate thousands of day trippers that come here this summer?
The unknowns basically making it almost impossible to plan at this point. Mike?
Absolutely.
You know, Evan, I guess this really started for you in Newport maybe a couple of weeks before, but, you know, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is a staple in the city by the sea, that getting canceled. You know, we now know the Newport Folk and Jazz Festivals, those things sell out and people spend millions of dollars in the hotels and restaurants. Those are off. You've got the boat show that's still scheduled for September. It's actually the 50th anniversary. Where does that stand right now when you see all these other events postponed or canceled?
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said, you know, we spent the last 8 weeks consecutively listening and being disappointed each week when another event got canceled. So we get up on Monday and see what events canceled that weekend. And of course, just last week we heard about the sad news about the Jazz and Folk. So our horizon now turns to the fall. Our big marquee events in the fall are the Newport Boat Show and the Food and Wine Festival. Both of those are currently scheduled, but they're also watching every day what the health curve is, what the numbers are, and they need a runway. They need about 60 days to make a decision, go to no go. So I think you'll see the the boat show make an announcement probably by 4th of July weekend whether they're going to go or not.
And you can see there's just the whole setup. It's not just complex, but it's a lot of manpower just putting the tents up, just getting ready for the boat show too. Shannon?
Well, they have a lot of international visitors. They need a lot of time to prep for that, so they can't make a decision the week before.
And Kristen, speaking of events being canceled, we hear of all of the weddings that right now are just being put on the back burner or being significantly scaled down. That's an entire industry. That's caterers, that's photographers, that's bands. Are you hearing from a lot of those businesses just asking when are we finally going to be able to do this again? How are they surviving this?
Yes, absolutely. I've talked to 2 or 3 of the leading caterers. We've worked with a lot of our membership. It is a huge problem. And for them, it all goes back to that question of timing. You have a bride call up and they say, I have a wedding in September. Should I postpone? They don't know what to say. And I think it raises a good point about hotels. And I'm very concerned about hotels because they're being hit from so many different sides. Not only the fact that people can't travel, not only the fact that the convention center isn't up and running, but now also a lot of them are special event venues. And municipalities are funded by hotel taxes. Evan and I are funded by hotel taxes. So when you're thinking holistically about what's going on in tourism, hotels need to be a big part of that conversation.
Yeah, I have to imagine that's so tough. Like you said, being hit from all sides and not having any answers of when they'll be able to get up and running again. Mike?
Caswell, you mentioned about packing a lunch before you go to Westerly. Seems like a lifetime ago, but I worked at WERI Radio in Westerly back in the 80s. And downtown Westerly did not look like that. It looks like today with all the pubs and the restaurant. Really, it's a destination place. People are taking the train from Providence and going to Westerly. Some of those are tight quarters. How do you see those businesses surviving? Do they all have to go outside, close streets down? What are you looking at there?
Well, it's actually interesting. Tonight, Monday night, our town council is meeting with the intention of relaxing a lot of the local rules because the governor may say you can have outdoor dining, but then my fear is those restaurants, come up with an idea to close down the street and have, tables out in the street because, as you say, there's no room to do it on the sidewalks. I want to see the town be able to quickly advance those ideas and allow them to happen. So my goal tonight at the council meeting is to sort of get local government out of the way and say, look, these are unprecedented times. We want to get these businesses open, and maybe we have to close down High Street Westerly, for instance, which we've done for block parties and stuff every night, and have people go down and go outside to have dinner 8 feet apart. Whatever it takes, we're ready to do. And downtown is a jewel. There's a lot of renovations going on, and the train station is right there. So yeah, a lot of people are coming into town, or were coming into town, looking for something to do in our great downtown, and we're going to make it so that they can do that again very soon.
It's a fun spot to be in the summertime. There is no question about that. Shannon?
And Evan, following up on what Caswell was just talking about, I think I already got an email from Gurney's talking about, okay, we have plans in the works. They're trying to let their customers know what they're working on as far as just being ready the minute they get the okay. What have you heard from restaurants in Newport or hotels or just trying to get creative? We had one business owner from Narragansett who was saying, I'm going to try to put some tables on the beach, and then we can keep them more separate than we would have inside. Just trying to do anything they can to be creative at this point.
Indeed. Like Caswell, all of our restaurants and actually storekeepers are been in constant contact with the city of Newport, asking for relief about sidewalks, having those exploratory conversations about maybe closing some streets. I think people's, I love the Yankee ingenuity and the spirit here. We've been dealt a very serious blow, but people want to roll up their sleeves. They want to get busy rebuilding our industry. We have been crushed, but people's spirit is very much alive, and that's going to come out in creative ways that we don't even know yet. But I do believe you're going to see a lot more outdoor dining and a lot more outdoor shopping throughout the streets of Newport this summer.
Yeah, at least if we can take advantage of the fact that we will have nice weather coming up. I know it's terrible timing for our industry, but you know, we'll at least have the nice weather to hopefully use that to our advantage. Yes. Mike?
All right, thanks, Shannon. Kristen, let's go to you. We were talking about what all the hotel industry does for the state of Rhode Island. Do you have to remarket and rebrand now what hotels and restaurants look like down the road?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of research on this, and one of the things that is paramount, obviously, is going to be safety. If people are going to travel, they're going to want to feel comfortable knowing about sanitization practices and things that nobody ever wanted to talk about before. So we're looking at incorporating that kind of content on our website so people feel comfortable. The other thing that people are going to be looking for is value. A lot of people are hurting financially because of the pandemic, and we're going to have what we call pent-up demand. People are going to want to get out. So we need to offer them affordable options. Rhode Island is in a great position in that we're a drive market for a lot of other states. We're right in that smack in the Northeast. So that gives us some advantages. So once we are opened up a little to Evan and Caswell's points, we'll be able to, I think, reap a lot more of that drive market than some other parts of the country.
Really, people in Rhode Island have stepped up doing takeout, not just on the weekend. I think there's some survey I saw 6 out of 10 Rhode Islanders are doing takeout on a Friday or Saturday night, so at least helping some of the restaurants stay afloat. Shannon?
Yeah, that was a point I was actually just going to touch on for you, Caswell, kind of playing off of what Kristen just said. What have you, I mean, the interest in Westerly, people wanting to come out and support you as quickly as they can, have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, the one great thing that our MISQUAMICUT Business Association has is this: we have this tremendous social media presence. We have about 150,000 followers between Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which is really good numbers for a little village. And so we're able to communicate instantly and directly with people. So we've been doing a lot of live streaming and getting immediate feedback from people. They want to come. They're always asking the questions. Can I come? That's the number one question. The other question, and we're going to have to figure out how to combat this, is, are your beaches closed for the summer? Well, that's a tough question, because if that starts to get out there, you know, we're going to have to sort of counter that with a beaches open campaign. So again, I can't even give people these, you know, directions as to what to do. So for instance, the governor said we can open our drive-in movie theater. So we're doing that starting on Friday night, but we can only sell 50 cars. I mean, we have to limit it way down. And so they're all sold out for like the first couple of weeks. And people are saying, well, if I have out-of-state plates, can I come? And so it's like, it's hard to answer these questions. So the people are willing to come. They want to come. They want to support our businesses. But again, we don't know exactly how they can do that yet. So we're constantly harassing the governor's office with questions, which I know everyone else that's on this panel is sending those lists. You know, what do I do in this case? What do I do in that case? You know, we actually were able to get directions for our drive-in. 5 people can go in the bathroom at once. You know, they got to park your cars 6 feet apart. I mean, it's crazy, but at least those are some directions, and we were able to say, yeah, we can open this. Whereas our big 3-day spring festival, which would have just ended yesterday, bringing 20,000 people to our beach list this past weekend, it was canceled. So we turned, you know, lemons into lemonade. We did an online festival with music a couple weeks ago, and we ended up having 20,000 people watch online, which was pretty cool. So, you know, we're just trying to figure it out and move forward and use social media and make it happen.
Yeah, social media has been huge. I think a lot of the restaurants, too, even reaching out to their patrons, telling them, we're open, now you can get mixed drinks, now you can do this. So it's been really, really helpful throughout all of this. Mike?
Dan, with so many people laid off in the restaurant industry, we kind of touched upon this a little bit. Let's go deeper into maybe some of the benefits. Are you guys working with the congressional delegation, the governor's office, to help laid off waiters and waitresses, anybody that works in the industry, to get some more stimulus money down the road?
I'm sorry, I have a terrible internet connection. I got locked out twice, so I don't even know if you can hear me. I'm having trouble. You can? Okay. So as far as, you know, employees being out, there's a couple of things that are going on. Yes, we're in touch with our congressional delegation pretty much weekly, sometimes more, sometimes less, in touch with our local Department of Labor and Training, et cetera. Also, we do have an employee relief fund right now. that we are helping some employees with. People have been very generous in supporting that so that we can give some small grants to employees to help them through. And then, it's the bottom line is we need to get people back to work. And that's what the biggest thing that is on our agenda right now is getting people back to work. People in our industry are very anxious. We're coming into a time right now that is our biggest and busiest time. And this is where we can make, where employees can make their money.
Dale, Bob Burke, who owns Potiphar, told us a couple of weeks ago, if people have to wear a mask, about 75% of the restaurants will close. What's your feeling about that? Does a restaurant have to remarket itself?
I think when the facial covering becomes the norm, it doesn't stand out so much that just the restaurant is having to use it. Everybody's wearing them. I took a walk in my neighborhood this weekend, and it was amazing to see how many people did, in fact, have facial coverings on. So 2 weeks ago, it was very foreign. I think it's becoming more and more of the norm, hopefully not the norm forever. Mm-hmm. It's not comfortable. However, I'm hoping that would not be the case, that now people are becoming more accepting of the mask and the facial covering.
Obviously, too, with the mandate in place. Shannon?
Evan, can you touch on the social media aspect as well? What's Newport been doing? I know Newport uses social media pretty regularly throughout the year. Have you guys been using that as well and really trying to reach out and answer questions that way too?
We have. It's been a struggle, to be honest with you, about what is appropriate messaging during this crisis. And so we needed to step back and just remind everyone how beautiful our state is, and ask them to look back at some of their fonder memories and times before, so that they could reminisce about great times in Rhode Island, but also dream about their next wonderful experience here. So our social media messaging has been literally kind of both retro and looking forward, if you will, trying to keep them updated on the information that we do know, but also just you're really building into your loyalty, if you will, and just keeping that established connection with your visitor base has been very important. And people have sent us wonderful messages through social media saying, thinking of you, hang in there, guys, better days are coming. And so this has been a wonderful way, like Caswell said, to stay connected with our base and to just remind them that another visit's coming soon.
Yeah, I have to imagine that feels good to have that support, even if it's on social media. I think we all need that right now, and it's been pretty crucial throughout this entire pandemic to just feel like you're all in it together. Mike?
Yeah. Kristen, this has been a disappointing time for any family or a senior who's not just graduating from high school. We're doing 12 salutes on Eyewitness News, showcasing all the seniors that are graduating high school, but college graduation is big money for the state of Rhode Island, because a lot of these kids don't live in Rhode Island. You have family and friends that are coming in from other places. You're working closely, not just with Brown University, but all the schools, universities in the state about moving forward.
Absolutely. The colleges and universities are an engine for us. So it's graduation, it's alumni weekend, it's parents weekend. We also work with them. Brown has a world-class medical school. We bring in meetings and conventions through them. So those linkages are very important, and we're very concerned about we've already pretty much missed the May graduations. We've had some postponements and are hoping to have them at later dates. But it is a very concerning time. The other thing is, colleges may use hotel rooms for dorms, and that later in the year, and that sounds great on the surface, but you have to worry about if they stay longer than 30 days, they go off the tax rolls, and there's a lot to it. But tourism and higher ed are linked like this, so when one is down and the other falls as well. So there's definitely a closeness.
Crushing time for those kids too, who have worked so hard.
Yeah, what you're doing is wonderful. I watch it every morning.
All right, thank you very much. Shannon?
That's great to hear. Dale, I'm curious, because you mentioned earlier that you've come up with some solutions. Can you expand on that at all, when you were talking about questions that people have and trying to solve some of the problems that are already arising, like the one about walking through a restaurant? What are some of the solutions that you've been able to come up with?
Well, it's interesting because, you think back just 6 months ago, we were all very environmentally conscious. And so we're thinking about using single-use forks, knives, spoons, napkins, not napkins, but menus. When in fact, our restaurants have to wash and sanitize everything. That's a norm, by the way. It's mandated that you have to be food safety certified, have managers on staff at all times. So when we came back and said, wait a minute, if we're going to have a single-use menu and that gets thrown away after everyone uses it, that is so wasteful. Why can't we have a laminated menu that we can, in fact, sanitize? Or let's use our plates, let's use our silverware that goes in a 180-degree dishwasher. And so it's safe, and just wrap it so that it's not out in the environment. So it'll be wrapped in a napkin, and then it'll be just as safe. And then we don't have to worry about all the disposables that we're doing right now. So it seems like everything has some kind of an exception or a subtlety to it that we just want to work on. And so now we have an option, as you heard today, that we can use either or. And that's very helpful on all fronts, because we don't want to go back to the old days where we're throwing away and having a lot of trash. But we can feel safe that 180 degrees is going to kill pretty much everything. And health did agree with that. So it's the communication part of it. The thing that I find most interesting as we did these studies of the people that are even doing takeout right now we just found out 6 in 10 adults are saying that they're doing takeout, but they can't wait to get back. They really can't wait to get back and dine out again. And so that's the part that we're looking forward to starting next Monday. So make your reservations now.
I know Mike's dying to get back out there too.
Mike, don't have the first word, you're right.
Shannon has seen it firsthand. Me on the piazza at Federal Hill.
Yep.
I wait all
it's
year.
It's his natural habitat.
Evan, we were talking about the hotels. 84% of the people coming into the hotels are out-of-towners. We didn't talk about marinas. Let's talk a little bit about that, because a lot of your business in Newport, boaters and people coming in, maybe not using the traditional hotel, but docking for a week as part of a vacation. Moving forward, have you seen that drop at all, or are you going to try to repurpose, remarket that?
Well, the marine industry is really big for the entire state because we are the ocean state and we have beautiful Narragansett Bay. So we've got marinas all the way around. Newport Harbor is blessed to be full with yachts from all over the United States and all over the world. So it's a similar story to hotels, which is, access for people. And if they wanted to come in for a weekend from Connecticut or Massachusetts, will they be asked to quarantine? It's a similar parallel conversation to the hotel conversation, whether you're arriving by car or arriving by boat. We have a compounded issue in Newport in that we are blessed to have a lot of very large super yachts come here, literally from the Mediterranean and from the Caribbean. And many of those are in a holding pattern trying to determine whether they're going to be welcome here this year. And so the marine industry is vital to the entire state. The Rhode Island Marine Trades Association, I think, is doing a great job communicating with the boating world, not only from Rhode Island, but from Massachusetts and Connecticut as well, because a lot of people in Connecticut and Massachusetts keep their boats in Narragansett Bay, and they need to access them. So the Marine Trades Association has been working closely with the governor's office to make sure that that can still happen. Of course, boating is, by definition, a natural social distancing activity. And so we're very fortunate in the ocean state that we're a recreational paradise for sailing, boating, fishing, hiking, biking, you name the list of recreational opportunities here. But the marine industry, I think, is going to also take a hit in this environment, but not as large as some of the other areas of our economy.
So many people in Rhode Island have their boats, will go to Newport just for the week on vacation too. So, Shannon?
Caswell, I've heard seen a lot of articles about Airbnb owners and rental home owners. Of course, that's huge in MISQUAMICUT, and all the questions they have. And can we rent out our home? What kind of, cleaning do we have to put in place? Are you getting a lot of those questions? And is that another place where you just don't have the answers yet?
Yeah, there's a ton of questions surrounding that because there's a huge section of MISQUAMICUT. There's a couple of streets, a few streets near the beach. There's about 500 rental cottages in the MISQUAMICUT area, and there's a couple of real estate agencies that they pretty much go through. And both of the owners of those real estate agencies are constantly calling me. And we're actually having a Zoom conversation tomorrow with someone from DBR because we need to answer that question. So right now they're not taking reservations, for the next few weeks. They've had to cancel reservations for Memorial Day weekend at this point. But they're trying not to cancel things for July and August because we hope things will turn around by then. So yeah, I mean, if we don't have some answers on that sooner than later, we're going to be in some pretty big trouble this summer because when the cottages are full and the hotels are full, that feeds the restaurants and it feeds the shops, and those are the people that spend the money, the ones that are obviously staying for a week, whatever, and it feeds the whole economy. When people come to a place like MISQUAMICUT Beach, they're not looking at like borders, like, oh, that's the Connecticut border. They're thinking, hey, today I'm going to go see the mansions in Newport because it's only 40 minutes away. Right. Tomorrow I'm going to go to the casinos. I might take a plane from Westerly out to Block Island to go day trip over there. So, it's like we need those answers about hotels and cottages or we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, it seems like the answer from all of you as we've gone through this is just the frustration with day by day, what's the answer to this specific question, what's the answer to this specific question, and it's very much, it seems like even statewide, we're learning as we go. This illness, even as we've seen it, has changed so much, and the way we approach it has changed so much, but hoping for all of you that you can start getting more of those answers soon, because how do you even start to plan when you don't have those? Mike?
Kristen, another industry or another part of our fabric that has taken a major hit has been the nonprofit world. A lot of the charities have their events in the spring, maybe not so much in the summertime, but they do ramp up again in the fall. Just think about the Hasbro Ball that was postponed once and now canceled. What are we doing for the nonprofits who rely on things like the Hasbro Ball and walks that take place at Roger Williams Park and at the State House?
Well, I think that unfortunately for nonprofits, they're having to get creative and having to do some things virtually. I know the library has done some things. I think the Preservation Society in Providence has done some things. But for example, I'm on the board of the Roger Williams Park Zoo, and we had to cancel Brew at the Zoo and Zubilee. And so it's about being creative and postponing. It's also about, one of the things that I think has come out of this is Rhode Islanders supporting other Rhode Islanders in a lot of ways, from ordering takeout, from doing what they can. And so I would like to think that level of giving will continue. I know when it comes to venues like the convention center or the hotels that host some of these things, as soon as they can, they will bring them back and they will book them.
And so many cities and towns do have decent-sized revenue roads on the Patuxent and Cranston, for example. And I mentioned Crown Plaza and Warwick, even on the Aquidneck Island. Shannon?
But on top of that, Dale, it's got to be hard because all of these events want to reschedule, God willing, in the fall maybe. How do all of these venues make sure that they don't get bottlenecked in trying to make sure that they can reschedule all of these events all at the same time?
Well, what happens is we all work together and with calendars and try to fit people in. It's amazing how flexible people can do, because they do innately understand, as frustrating as they are, frustrated as they are, they do understand that now we only have so many days in the week. And people, we find those pockets and work with people. And hopefully when we can do that, we can give them some incentive to move to another day of the week in case they're only married to a certain day of the week. Well, if you move to this day, maybe we can help you out a little bit better. It's really, there's a word here, and it's community. And I said earlier, trust. But we have such a great community in the state of Rhode Island, and that we all work together. We all know each other, whether we've met in person or not. We know each other, we know of each other, and we know we can lean on people. And I think that is part of why we will come out of this on top. It's painful and it's going to take a while. And then the last thing is the communication. The communication is tough, but we're asking for answers that aren't there. So as much as I might feel frustrated, I know that I need to be part of the answer. I need to find part of the solution. Our organization needs to do it. Our members need to do it. Our industry is so important. When I look back in 2019, Shannon, we taxed. In 2019, we collected over $292 million in taxes. So we're an important industry that needs to get back on its feet to help the state of Rhode Island and the greater good of the economy. And that's first and foremost. So we're working to get everybody scheduled back as much as we can.
Yeah, it's such a hard domino effect right now, Dale. Thank you. Mike?
That's a great word.
And that's probably a great way to end our 12th town hall. Both Shannon and I are looking forward to the whole state of Rhode Island and just life in general getting back to normal, or what the new normal might be. But we hope everyone is doing well. Dale, Kristen, Evan, and Caswell, thank you very much for taking out some time to being part of our 12th town hall.